Hi, I'm Owen from the English Folk Dance and Song Society, and I'm here with Paul Sartin, who is performing in our Broken Hearted Ballad Night on the 14th of February. So Paul, tell us about this Ballad Night. What was the premise of it?
Well, it's really an anti-Valentine's night, to be perfectly honest. So we're presenting songs about love gone wrong. That's the subtitle of the evening, both within and without relationships, and a whole variety of different types of material.
Brilliant. Where have you gone looking for source material?
We've scoured the archives, the recorded archives. We've got looked at manuscripts and then lots of publications as well. So, to give you an example, I'm going to be singing a version of The Lowlands of Holland, which is a very tragic ballad that was collected from one of my ancestors and is only in manuscript form here at Cecil Sharp House, in fact, in the library or in the vaults. So that's one example. Then Emily Portman is going to be singing a version of Lovely Joan that she got from the singing of Louis Killen, and she actually recorded him in his sitting room and has transcribed that. So that gives you an example of two provenances of our songs.
Yeah. I can't remember who said it. I'm sure I heard somebody say that nobody sings a depressing ballad like Paul Sartin.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try and buck the trend in this on this concert. I've got one very sad one, but the others, well, there'll be an amount of material that's tongue in cheek, because there are lots of very amusing songs about love going wrong in various ways, technical, physical, and otherwise.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, well, you have to come to the concert to find out. I don't want to do a spoiler really, but one example is My Husband's Got No Courage in Him, to give you a flavour of the evening. So we're going to mix it around a bit. We're going to do a variety of themes, I suppose, really. And also, I would say the majority of the music is English in background, but we've got one song that's a Scottish version, I think, of Barbara Allen that James is singing. And he's also going to be singing an American country-style song too. So a bit of variety in there.
I think there's quite a stereotype with folk music, which I think is played up by a lot of folk musicians these days, that folk songs are all very sad and always about death and things. I mean, clearly there are a lot of songs like that, but would you say that's a fair stereotype as a kind of...
I would say that the folk tradition covers every range of emotion, from the desperate, broken-hearted songs right through to doggerel and silly rhymes, absolutely everything in between. I think it's a great reflection of the human experience. I think at different times, perhaps, culturally, we've concentrated on different aspects of the song, and certain types of songs seem to be in vogue. At one point it might be miserable about ballads, at another point it might be drinking songs or sea shanties. But I would say I wouldn't concentrate on any one theme at the exclusion of any others. I think there's everything for everybody, which is the glory of folk music.
And in terms of folk music sound, you play the oboe, obviously.
I do.
Which you don't get that much in folk music these days.
No.
Would you say that the sort of the sound of folk music, the typical aesthetic which is associated with it, is that important, or is that just an arbitrary convention and it's all, I guess that it's more about the material than the sound?
I think you're right that there are conventions that have arisen over the years, but actually if you look back at historically at what instruments people were using, it was whatever they could afford or get their hands on. And over the last, maybe during the late 20th and early 21st century, people have concentrated maybe on melodians and fiddles and a sort of received sound of folk music, when actually you can chuck the kitchen sink in it and it'd still be authentic. So I think it's great to try to smash those conventions actually, really, because they become a bit tyrannical after a while. And if you just focus on conventions and let them have their way, you end up fossilising the music. And that's what's great about some of the younger people coming through. They're bringing the electronic music into the tradition and all sorts of other sounds, and that's what should happen.
I like to think of it as, I guess the tradition is, like say, people making music with what they have and making music that they like, rather than trying to stick to any set convention.
Yeah. Yeah, and being the music of the people, it was very much the people would make music with whatever means were to hand, and it was generally the poor elements of society that kept the tradition going. I mean, it's not very fashionable at the moment to play the piano in English music. There are a few people doing it, not many, maybe more on the dance side. But once upon a time, lots of people played folk music on the piano, but it just became a very unfashionable thing. In fact, there used to be a piano in the corner here, in the bar at Cecil Sharp House, in the 80s, and I remember coming to sessions here and lunch out thumping it out every evening. And then suddenly it disappeared. Probably because it wasn't in vogue anymore, or maybe because he broke it because he used to thump it so hard, I don't know.
Would you say that people today are writing folk music of the future, or is sort of folk music as we know it, has that halted, and now music is just owned by a specific person?
I think there are almost two questions there. I think one, people are still writing songs that are going into the tradition and or are informed by the tradition, and I think as long as creative people are involved in traditional music, that will continue to happen. So again, some of the, particularly the younger lot coming through writing songs, which is great to see because people my age have been writing songs for the last 20 years, but for youngsters to be doing it in the folk idiom, it's very heartening. So I think there is a future for that, definitely. I think the other thing about whether it's people writing songs or whether they become part of the tradition is, it's a very pertinent question, because I suppose the norms of commercial music have crept into the tradition. So now if someone writes a song, they're known for that song, and presumably they get all nice royalties for it and so on. And so there is a bit of that sort of superstardom coming into the tradition, which I think probably quite a lot of people feel uncomfortable with. But it's the way it is, I suppose. If you want greater media exposure for traditional music, then you're going to get people who get lots of exposure and become quite famous, and they're famous for their songs. What I like about the way people have written songs in the past, Leon Rosselson's or Mike Waterson's and Lau Waterson's and so on, their songs are passed into their tradition, and people don't know who's written them. And I think that's the very valuable thing, because that's one of the defining qualities of folk music. There's a song that gets honed down by practice, by other people doing it, by going out to the pubs and so on, and it becomes its own thing. And I suppose we can't really tell whether the songs that are being written now are going to do that or not. We don't have value of foresight. But I hope that will continue.
So after this ballad night is over, what have you got planned for the next few months?
Well, I'm going to have to make it up to my girlfriend, because obviously we've got the ballad night on Valentine's evening, and I won't be there to wine and dine her. So that's my first job. And then I'm on tour with Faustus in March. April touring with Bellowhead, May touring with Belshazzar's Feast. And then June, I think I'm either collapsing or going on holiday or something, I can't remember. But yeah, it's quite a busy time, lots of things going on. And I'm working on a project to do with the First World War at the moment, so I'm about to go up and use the War Museum's library and to look into the history of the English Folk Dance and Song Society during the First World War. I couldn't find any red roses, because obviously this is a ballads evening about broken hearts and love gone wrong. So instead of roses, I brought you a sprig of rosemary.
Oh, thank you.
That's from James, Emily and myself.
I'm touched.